Get your ears wrapped around the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast. All the scoop you need to know, from college basketball to the NBA and even March Madness. News of your rising stars, topics on and off the hardwood. This is the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to the GSMC Basketball Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Casuan, and I'm so grateful once again to be here with you guys, talking some basketball and just immersing ourselves into the world of basketball and the world of hoops. Something that I'm so blessed to be able to do. I'm so grateful to have you here listening. It's going to be a good show. It's going to be a great show today, guys. I know I was trying to figure out how I wanted to start this show. And I thought about it for quite a bit. And let's just get right into it. We have a lot to talk about on the show today. We're going to be covering culture, the importance of culture, and how to establish it in primarily a college basketball program. We're also going to be talking about some mid-majors, some one-and-dones, some blue bloods. And has that dynamic shifted in the world of college basketball with the recent results from the March Madness tournament, with the recent success from some notable mid-majors, with the recent lack of success from some notable blue bloods, and the one and dones, per usual, electing to go into the draft. Has all that impacted and shifted the landscape of college basketball today? We're going to dive deep into that. And if you guys stick around for the end of the show, I'm going to have a pretty interesting story to tell you guys that deals with work ethic. I'm going to be telling you guys a story of when I first encountered and when I first realized what true work ethic was and how that molded and affected me and allowed me to grow to the man I am today and to the professional basketball player that I am today. It's a really great story. And that's not being biased because I'm in it, but it's actually a really good story. It's definitely not something you guys are going to want to miss. So stick around for the end of the show to hear that story. But going to our first topic. People often ask the question, how do you measure a leader's success? Is it by the amount of accolades that they have? Is it by the amount of success that they have during their tenure as a leader, whether it be as the CEO of a company, the coach of a basketball team, leader of an organization? Is it measured by the success of those that work under them? Is it measured by how the leader carries themselves? Is it measured by the number of people that leaders able to get on board with them? And how do you measure true leadership? And some would tell you that they don't know how to measure true leadership. I was reading this book a couple months ago, John Maxwell book. And in the book, it talked about how the mark of a true leader is never noticed while the leader is there. The only way to measure the success of a true leader is by waiting until that leader has left their position. Then you can truly measure the success of that leader. And I read the book and I read that quote and I was thinking to myself, wow, that's interesting. What does that mean? And what that message means is conveying is that as a leader, your impact won't truly be quantified, measurable until you leave. The people that follow you, the people that work under you, how are they going to work? How are they going to move forward with you gone? Sticking to basketball, sticking to coaching. As a coach, the lessons, the skills that you're teaching your coaching staff and your players, are those lessons, are those skills that can be taught? Are those lessons or skills, can they use that once you're gone? Are you implementing those skills and lessons? Are you inspiring them for them to be successful once you leave, once you're gone? If you're doing that, then they'll be successful long after you leave the program. You've established a precedent. You've established a culture in doing so. And the reason I want to talk about that is because Roy Williams, now formerly the head coach of the UNC, University of North Carolina basketball program, has retired. Roy Williams retired on April 1st, 2021, at the age of 70. He coached for 33 seasons, has accumulated 903 wins as a head coach, which is good for third all time on the NCAA men's basketball coaching wins list. Just to give a little background on Mr. Roy Williams, he played his college ball at the University of North Carolina. Now, he wasn't very good when he played, but by him playing there, added some cachet to his name. It showed people that he has credibility, that he's been a part of a program, a prestigious program before. After he finished playing college basketball, he served as an assistant under another great head coach in Dean Smith. And he served as an assistant on Smith's coaching staff from 1978 to 1988, where he was able to work with and coach some great players such as James Worthy and Michael Jordan. After serving as an assistant under Dean Smith's coaching staff, he served as a head coach at the University of Kansas from 1988 to 2003, where he garnered a record of 418 and 101. And while he was at Kansas, he went to 4 Final Fours and finished twice as the national champion runner-up. And in one of those championship games, he went up against Carmelo Anthony and the University of Syracuse. And in that game, Carmelo Anthony had one of the best performances I've ever seen a freshman have in a national championship game. That was that moment right there solidified Carmelo Anthony as one of the top 10 greatest college basketball players of all time. Just with that performance alone. But after 2003, Roy Williams returned to the University of North Carolina. And let me just read off these accolades while Roy Williams was at UNC. He was a 3-time national champion, once in 2005, once in 2009, and most recently in 2017. 5 Final Four appearances, 8 Elite Eights, 10 Sweet 16s, 3 conference tournament championships, and 9 regular season championships. Throughout the course of his career, Roy Williams has won 79 NCAA tournament games, which is good for second most all time behind Coach K. With these accolades and this success, it sets Roy Williams apart, and it puts him on a very short list of some of the greatest coaches to ever coach college basketball. So what made Roy Williams great? What allowed him to be successful? Let's backtrack to the beginning of his career, where he was an assistant under Dean Smith. By him sitting under Dean Smith coaching staff for that extended period of time, he was able to learn and take in the skills and traits that are necessary to be a great coach by learning under Dean Smith. And the reason I bring up that point is because I want to emphasize the importance of being willing to set apart 3 years, 4 years for your career to learn a trade, learn a skill, to work under somebody, to shadow somebody, so you can learn the necessary skills and traits so you can be successful, to learn from their experiences so they can teach you what they didn't know going as they evolved in their career. But now they can teach you that, and you can learn from their mistakes. Because you want to get to the point where when you learn, you don't have to learn from mistakes, but you can learn from other people's mistakes, from other people's experiences. So now you don't make those same mistakes. And those mistakes don't shorten or set you back, because now you already know what to do in that situation. And that was the genesis for Roy Williams' success throughout his career, by him being under Dean Smith's coaching staff for those first couple of years of his career. And by looking at that, I want to emphasize the importance of being willing to do that, to humble ourselves and to work under somebody or shadow somebody so we can learn the necessary skills and traits to be successful. And not to digress, but too few of us, many of us struggle with that. Being willing to learn. Because we feel like we know it all. We feel like we know what we're doing. We have to be willing to humble ourselves and to allow someone else to teach us. It's a cliche, but you don't know what you don't know. But you can always learn something new. Doesn't matter what field of work you're in, where you're at in your life. You can always learn something new. There's always more to learn. And we have to remember that. But with that being the jumpstarter's career, followed by that, what made Roy Williams successful? whether he was at Kansas or whether he was at UNC, Roy Williams did an amazing job of establishing culture. He did an amazing job of establishing a culture in whatever program he was at. He established a precedent, a standard that not only his players, but his coaching staff had to live by. And there's a story that I want to tell about Roy Williams when he was at UNC, and it involves a college guard that was a freshman. It was one practice where Roy Williams was ripping into this freshman guard, whether it was every drill, every live run, every stoppage of play, every minute of that practice, Roy Williams was ripping into that freshman guard. And the reason Roy Williams was doing that is so he could establish a precedent, a standard for that freshman guard to follow. And that freshman guard is either going to follow that standard and grow as a player, as an individual, or he's going to transfer because he can't follow it, or he's going to ride the bench and not play. Those are your three options. Now, which one do you want to choose? And so by Roy Williams establishing that precedent, that standard early on, that sets the standard for the entire program. So now you know when you come in as a freshman, this is what's going to happen. This is what's going to be done. And Roy Williams was notorious for ripping into his guards, especially the younger ones. But it's necessary, especially as guards, the point guards, they're the leaders of your team. They're the ones that have to be the most communicative, the ones that are getting everyone into their sets, into their positions. But Roy Williams didn't just rip into the guards or hold the guards to a high standard. He held everybody to a high standard, which is what great leaders do. They don't just hold certain people in their program, certain people in their company to a high standard. No, everybody's held to that high standard. Because everyone needs to be successful. Everyone needs to be great in that program. And one thing you hear about Roy Williams is that he was tough, but fair. And one thing you also hear about Roy Williams is that the players that played under him, the coaches that coached under him, they all felt like Roy Williams genuinely cared about them. And as a leader, in order to get the most out of those that are working under you, you have to get those people that work under you, to get them to know that you care about them. If they know that you care about them, they're going to be willing to do whatever you ask of them, whatever it takes. Think about it. Think about in your life. Think about the people that you feel like don't really care about you. You're not as receptive to them. You're not as willing to do stuff for them. You're not as willing to take time out of your day to help them out or do something for them. But now think about the people in your life that you know care about you. You're willing to do whatever it takes for them. You'll drop what you're doing at the drop of a dime to help them. And you're more receptive to them. Same applies to coaching and to leadership. In order to get the most out of somebody, you have to make them realize that you care about them. And that's not something you can fake. You can't hide that. You have to genuinely care about them because they can read that. They can feel that. So to be a great coach, you have to be invested in your staff, in your players. You have to care about them. You have to care about their well-being. Only then will you get the most out of them. And if you're not getting the most out of your players and your coaching staff, you're underperforming. If you're underperforming, you're not getting enough wins. You're not getting enough wins, you're going to be fired in about 3 or 4 years. So you have to get the most out of your players and your coaching staff. And that is something that Roy Williams was able to do because he genuinely cared about his players and his coaching staff. He was able to, relate to them on an emotional level. He was invested in them. And that's something you hear all the time about Roy Williams. Yeah, he was tough. Great coaches are tough. They're supposed to be. But he cared. He cared about them. And that's what the players felt. That's what the coaching staff felt like. But Roy Williams has set his mark on college basketball. One of the greatest to ever do it. And on a short list of some of the greatest college basketball coaches, some of the greatest college basketball coaches of all time. And the best way we'll get to see his measurement of his true success as a leader, let's see how UNC works once Roy Williams is gone after this upcoming season. I know that with coaching, it's a little different because the new coach is going to have to come in and establish his own culture and precedent, but I guarantee you with the impact that Roy Williams has had and the precedent he established and the skills and lessons he taught while at UNC for that extended period of time is going to last long after he's gone. And we'll be able to measure how successful Roy Williams truly was as a head coach. Roy Williams, one of the greatest to ever do it and at the college level. We still have so much more in the show for you guys. Like I said, we're going to be talking about the importance of establishing culture and how to do it on the college basketball program. I'm going to be discussing mid-majors, one-and-dones, blue bloods, and how that dynamic has dramatically shifted. Will that shift be permanent? We have to wait and see. And you'll also get to hear my story of work ethic, true work ethic, and when I realized what that was. Stick around for the end of the show to see that. It's definitely not something you're going to want to miss. So stick around, guys.
Are you looking for the very best NFL and college football podcast? Then check out the GSMC Football Podcast. Get the latest football news both on and off the field. From the NFL Draft to trades to the rumor mill to the NFL Combines, they got you covered. That's GSMCpodcast.com/football-podcast. Get updates on college rivalries, game day insights, and much, much more. It's football talk the way you want it. This show eats, sleeps, and breathes football. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
All right, everybody, welcome back. As we recapped in our first segment, we talked about Roy Williams and the illustrious career that he had while coaching at UNC and University of Kansas. We talked about how Roy Williams set a precedent and established culture while at both of those programs. And we talked about how the importance of humbling yourself and allowing yourself to grow and allowing yourself to learn from other people that have been doing what you're doing longer. So often we don't want to learn. We think we know everything. And we have this sense of arrogance and pride. But the moment we humble ourselves and allow ourselves to grow in that instance, we become better individuals. And before I segue into our second topic, I do want to reiterate the story that I'll be telling in our fourth segment that pertains to the story of how I first realized how important work ethic is and how I applied that to my career and my life. So just stick around for segment 4 to hear that story. It is going to be a story that you're truly going to enjoy, and it's going to add value to your life and your daily living. So get into segment 2, this topic that we're talking about right now. Speaking of work ethic is something that, through my experience, I've realized cannot be taught. It can be shown. It cannot be taught. Work ethic is something that you either have or you don't. To do it consistently. Just like that dog mentality, just like that tenacity, you can't teach a dog mentality. That's something that someone has intrinsically. They either have it or they don't. Just like that desire, that work ethic, the desire to want to be great, to want to get better every day. You can't teach that. You either have it or you don't. What you can do, though, is you can enforce it. Speaking about college programs, you can enforce work ethic. But for someone to voluntarily want to work hard and better themselves, you can't teach that. That's something intrinsically within the individual themselves, and they either have it or they don't. But what you notice across all basketball programs, specifically college basketball programs, work ethic is one of the key factors in it. And so work ethic can be considered to be a part of culture when it comes to basketball programs, collegiately. And just how important is culture? And culture can cover so many different things when it comes to basketball programs. Culture can mean how you're perceived by the outside, how you perceive yourself, your standard of living, your standard of playing, your standard of communication. Culture encompasses all of that. And culture encompasses how you walk into a facility, how you leave a facility, how you interact with the media, how you walk into the training room, how you walk into the medical room, how you walk onto the bus, how you walk into a stadium, how you walk into the court, how you walk into the film session room. All of that encompasses culture. Culture encompasses all of that. And what you notice is that basketball programs with the strongest culture often are the best programs. And I want to break this down for you guys. So let's look at UNC, right, with Roy Williams. Let's stick with that. What is UNC known for? What are they known for? Having great defense on the perimeter, setting tough ball screens, big to guard, and running the court, running the floor hard. All of these traits are done with the work ethic and tenacity and grit. And what you see is those traits are carried over the course of many and numerous classes. And when I say class, I mean, you're the class you came in with. So you came in at 2011. It is from 2011 to 2015. That's one class. And what you see is those standards of playing and carrying yourself, that is carried across multiple classes. And so just sticking with UNC, they have a strict standard when they walk when they step off the bus going into the stadium on game days. They're always dressed up, suit and tie, home game and away game. Doesn't matter. That's a culture. That's a standard. And yeah, that's common, more so in college football, but in college basketball, UNC, suit and tie, home game, away game, walk into the stadium. That's culture. By you having a strong culture, you're raising your standard of living. And I just want to make this quick comparison. So think about the Spartans, right? The Spartans, ancient history. They had a strong culture that demanded strength, grit, sacrifices, tenacity when it came to their soldiers. And if you didn't fit those qualifications, you didn't fit those standards, they got rid of you. You were done. But they were okay with that because if you could fit those standards and qualifications, you just made them stronger. You made the Spartan army stronger. But if you didn't, then you were done. You're dealt away with. And that's okay too, because now there are no weak links in the Spartan army. And that same concept can be applied to your program, to your basketball team. You only want guys that are going to be able to fit your culture, that are going to be able to live up to the standard that their culture demands. And if they can, that's just making your program stronger because you're bringing in individuals that can hold that standard. But if you have guys coming in that can't fit that standard, that can't fit that standard of living, then you're done. You're going to have to transfer. You're going to have to leave. And that's okay too, because now there are no weak links in your program. The importance of culture. Think about Villanova right now. What is Villanova known for? Getting after you defensively, crashing the boards attentively on rebounding. And what are the guards known for? Getting to the paint, being patient, going off 2 feet, not turning the ball over, establishing precedent, a culture. These are all standards. And best believe when Jay Wright is recruiting, he's looking for those things. Because on the court, you can teach those guys that. But off the court, that culture, that standard of living and moving and carrying yourself, he is looking at that. He is looking at how those recruits are carrying themselves in media interviews, how they're communicating with him via text, phone call, whatever it may be. And if they don't fit that standard, they can't be a part of Villanova men's basketball. And that's okay, because there are no weak links in that program. Jay Wright can't afford for there to be weak links in that program. His job is on the line. His livelihood is on the line, just like any other coach in the country when they are out there recruiting players. They only want players that are going to strengthen their culture, make them better. And if you can't do that, you can't be a part of the program. And that's fine. Culture. The most important aspect. So how do you establish this culture? How do you set this precedent from ground zero? Let's talk about this. As a coach, the first day of off-season training starting in July. I'm thinking about D1 program right now. You got all your guys in the room, in your in your film study room, right? And you got the whiteboard up. You right there in that moment from day one, you have to set the standard. Just like in a relationship, you have to set a standard and a precedent of what's acceptable and what's not acceptable from day one. So there are no misunderstandings. Nothing is misconstrued. Everyone is on the same page. It has to be done from day one. That way the players know what's going to be asked of them and what is expected of them. And once they know that, they can work. You have to set the standard. When you walk into the basketball court, there is no walking. When you're playing defense, you are talking constantly. When you walk into the training room, you have a shirt on. When you walk into the medical room, no headphones. I'm being hyperbolic, but these are standards that could be followed. When you walk into the stadium, when you walk off the bus, headphones off. When you walk into the film room and film is being played and you guys are watching film study, silence. And paying attention, eyes on the screen. When you go into the cafeteria for lunch, you eat with a teammate. And these are all just little concepts, little examples of what a strong culture looks like in a basketball program. When you're out on campus, you carry yourself with the utmost respect, with class, with dignity. Standards that are been set from the beginning. So there is no misunderstanding. There is nothing to be misconstrued. There is no gray area. There is no, oh, what if I do this? Well, what if I'm in this situation? No. What does the standard say? If that's what it says, follow it. And that's the only option. And you have to establish it from day one. What do you want? How do you expect it to be done? And what are the consequences if it does not happen that way? People are either going to fall in line or not. Just like in relationships, you have to set your precedent, have to set your standard. And if your partner isn't on board with it, okay, that's fine. Have a nice day. If your players aren't on board with it, fine. Okay, let's get your transfer papers. Something that is difficult, very few people are able to do, which is why you see so few people achieve the highest level of success and greatness. If it was easy, everyone would be there. But there's a reason few people reach that standard of success and have that standard of success. And I've reached that pinnacle. It's hard. It's difficult. It's difficult to follow that culture, be a part of that culture, because it's demanding. But the reward is so great. And what you see is that culture, it trickles down from the seniors to the juniors to the seniors, to the freshmen. And it trickles down to the court. That standard, I have to carry myself with respect off the court. I'm going to carry myself with respect on the court as well. And I'm going to demand greatness. Because I'm demanding greatness off the court, I'm demanding it on the court as well. It goes hand in hand. The importance of establishing culture. Now, as a coach, what also has to be made aware is that if you're going into a program, your first year, you have to be given at least 5 years to establish your culture. Because if you think about it like this, you're a new head coach at a college basketball program, and you want to establish your own culture, your own precedent, your own standard. You're going to have seniors on that team that have been a part of that program for 4 years, and they already know one standard. They already know one precedent. So you're not making the culture for them. You're thinking about the underclassmen, the juniors, the sophomores, and the freshmen. Those are your guys. And if you don't think coaches think like that, you're fooling yourself. New head coaches, they're establishing the precedent and the culture in their first year for the freshmen and sophomores, the underclassmen, not the juniors and seniors, because they've already been in a specific program. They've already been conditioned and programmed to think a certain way for 3 years. You're not changing that in a year. So they're not trying to fix those guys in terms of culture. Now they're still coaching them on the court. Don't get it twisted. But in terms of establishing culture, that new head coach is not worried about the juniors and seniors. They're gone in 2 years. That head coach is worried about establishing culture and setting precedent for the freshmen and the sophomores. And so as a head coach, you have to be given at least 5 years to allow the guys that aren't your guys, your recruits, so those juniors and seniors, even the sophomores, quite frankly, you have to give them time to get out of the program. And when I say get out, I just mean graduate, finish their 4 years. That way you can get your guys in. And once you have all your guys in, then you can be evaluated to see if your culture is strong or not. So as an athletic director, when you're hiring head coaches, you have to think this is a 5-year investment. That head coach has to wait for the players that aren't his to leave the program, graduate from the program, then bring his guys in. Then you can see how strong that culture, that precedent really is. Then evaluations can be made after that 5 years. But too often, coaches are getting fired entirely too early before they even had a chance to establish a precedent, to set a standard for their culture. And you wonder why coaches struggle their first 2 or 3 years. Well, you're going to struggle. Those coaches are going to struggle. Those aren't their guys. Those aren't his recruits. He's in a shift. He's trying to shift the mindset of those guys from one culture they've been around for 2+ years to his new culture. And those guys are either buying in or not. So you have to allow coaches to have at least 5 years in a program before, as an athletic director, that you make any decisions. The importance of establishing culture. And what you see is, quite frankly, with programs across all sports with great, strong culture, they very rarely are making coaching changes. Why? Because time has been allowed for those coaches to establish a strong culture. 5+ years. A culture's been established. Now you can see the importance of it and see how successful a strong culture can make a program, make a team. There's no need to fire the coach now. And just sit back now and reflect and think about teams that go through coaches left and right. Think Cleveland. Football, Cleveland Browns, New York Jets, New York Giants, Washington Redskins. Teams that constantly go through coaches. They have no strong culture. Now, not to digress in the football, but Washington has established a culture now with Ron Rivera, and not to digress, but think of college basketball. What teams have strong cultures? UNC, Duke, Gonzaga, Michigan, Ohio State, Loyola Chicago, Butler, Seton Hall. Teams with strong culture, and think about how long those head coaches have been there. The importance of establishing culture. The most important aspect when it comes to a successful college basketball program. But I just named off some blue bloods and some mid-majors. And I do want to stay on that topic of blue bloods, mid-majors, and one and dones. So in our next segment, I'm going to be talking about, like I said, blue bloods, one and dones, mid-majors, and how the dynamic has shifted in college basketball. And will that shift be permanent? Stick around, tune in.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
All right, everybody, welcome back. As you guys are listening to our previous segment, we're talking about culture, how to establish culture, and the importance of establishing culture in a basketball program. Now, we've seen the importance of establishing culture, and we talked about it. The importance of accountability, the importance of integrity, the importance of holding yourself to the highest standard in any given situation, whether it be on the court, off the court, in the classroom, in the media setting. To be a part of a successful program with a strong culture, you have to have those traits. And it's a sink or swim mentality, mindset. If you can't hold that standard, you can't be a part of the program. There's no weak links. But if you can't hold that standard, then you can be a part of the program. And you only make the program better because of that. And what we've seen is that the most successful programs, just like I talked about previously, have a strong culture. And the best example I can use, think about the women and men's teams in the Final Four. In the women's, there's Stanford, UConn, South Carolina, and Arizona. All of those teams in the NCAA women's college basketball are known for what? Having a strong culture, a winning culture. Go over to the men's. We have Gonzaga, Baylor, Houston, UCLA. What are those programs known for? Having a strong culture. Now, using those teams, all 8 of those teams, might not be the best example for what I want to segue into, but maybe it is. Let's go into this. So I want to talk about the dynamic and the shifting narrative, the shifting scope of what I'm noticing between mid-majors, blue bloods, and one and dones when it comes to collegiate basketball. And you guys know what mid-majors are. Teams outside of the Power 5 conferences. So teams outside of the Pac-12, ACC, Big Ten, Big East, ACC, Pac-12, Big 12, SEC. Teams outside of those conferences would be considered mid-majors. Blue bloods. Think your Kentuckys, your Dukes, your North Carolinas, your Kansases, Michigan States, your UCLAs, your UConns. Think that pedigree when we say blue bloods. And one and dones, you guys get the gist of it. Athletes that go to school for a year and then decide to enter the draft, which is an absurd rule to me. And I'm so glad that the NBA has allowed that these kids can opt to go to the G League for a year as opposed to going to the college to play. I emphatically agree with that decision, with that ruling. But that's neither here nor there. That is a topic for another time that I will most certainly get into. But sticking on this topic at hand, the dynamic, the shifting, the changing of the guard between blue bloods and mid-majors and one and dones. So from my experience, when I first started watching college basketball, the first mid-major that I can truly think about that had success in an NCAA tournament run, mind you, I'm only 23, so short mindset, short history, is Butler back in 2010. That was the first mid-major I saw had true success, though they didn't win the national championship. They were one half-court shot away from winning it. But Butler, back in 2010, was the first mid-major that I can truly vividly remember having success in the NCAA tournament. Now, have there been others? Absolutely. Northern Iowa back in 2009. George Mason back in 2006. And there are others, but they're not popping in my head right now. But there have been other mid-majors that have success. But like I said, Butler is the first that I vividly remember. And I could see the shift right there. I could tell that this wasn't the norm. Having this little team from Indianapolis beat Michigan State, play hard against Duke, and beat Kansas State or Xavier. I believe it was Kansas State. If I'm wrong with that, someone can correct me. And seeing these cats, Gordon Hayward, Ronald Norred, Shelvin Mack, seeing these guys that weren't as athletic as the other top schools, but had the same skill set, coached by Brad Stevens, play hard and perform well against these teams at the highest level and on the biggest stage. And what that showed me as a young middle schooler is that in that moment, there's more talent than what we're seeing on ESPN every day. Because at that time, you weren't really getting mid-majors on television. You were getting the Blue Bloods. You're getting the Dukes, the Kansases, the Kentuckys, the North Carolinas, the Michigans, the Michigan States, the Ohio States, the Syracuse. That's all you saw on television. And then it's no coincidence the very next year, what do we see in 2011? We see VCU, another quote-unquote mid-major out of the Atlantic 10, make a deep run, beat Kansas, a blue blood, and make a run to the Final Four at the NCAA tournament. And then that's what really showed me that, okay, mid-majors aren't mid-majors for lack of talent, but simply because of the conference that they're in. And over the course of the decade, we saw other teams make deep runs into the postseason. For instance, the Loyola Chicago. There are other teams. I'm drawing a blank right now, but there are other teams. But Loyola Chicago is the one that comes to mind with that had a very deep run back in 2018. There's the point I want to make is that there's talent all over the country. And just because you go to a mid-major does not mean you're any less talented. You're just playing in a different conference. And so what makes mid-majors so successful when it comes to tournament play, when it comes to NCAA tournament? So think about it. What's necessary to be successful in NCAA tournament? Talent, coaching, skill set, and experience. Once again, that's talent, coaching, skill set, and experience. All of these things are necessary to be successful and have deep runs in NCAA tournament. And what you see is that at mid-majors, think about it. What do they always have? A large upper class. What I mean by that is that they have a solid number of juniors and seniors on that roster that have been part of that program for 3+ years. Hence the experience. Hence the growth and skill level and skill set. And the coaching. Those players have been with that coach for 3+ years. They formed a chemistry, a bond that is strong. And the reason they're able to make such deep runs in the NCAA tournament is because they're used to the pressure. This is nothing new to them. They're 3 years in. They're veterans. Those juniors and seniors are vets. This is new. I mean, this isn't anything new. This is easy to them. Not easy, but they're prepared. They're not fazed by the big stage, the bright lights. The pressure doesn't get to them because they've been here before. They've seen it before. This is nothing new. And which is why you see when they go up against the Blue Bloods that tend to have more freshmen because they follow the 1-and-1 routine and dynamic. Those freshmen don't have the experience because this is their first time on that big stage in the NCAA tournament. And so there's certain nuances and certain dynamics that they don't know how to do. They don't know how to draw a foul with 2 minutes left in the second half of an NCAA tournament game as opposed to a regular season game because there's a difference. You might not get that same call. They might not know, those freshmen might not know how to guard their man at 94 feet, but shade him into a trap zone. There's little nuanced details that the juniors and seniors on these mid-majors know because they've been there for so long, as opposed to the freshmen at the blue blood schools. They don't know because they haven't been in that experience. They haven't been in that situation before. And clock management is essential. It's key in these NCAA tournament games. And what you see is these blue bloods with the large number of freshmen, they fold under the pressure, not because they're nervous or scared, but because they don't have the experience to handle that pressure because it's new to them, which leads to the success of these mid-majors in the NCAA tournament. And it baffles me that when we watch the NCAA tournament, we're still surprised when we see these mid-majors, these 9 and 10 and 11 and 12 seeds make deep runs. Why are we still surprised? It's not a fluke. It's not luck. It's not by chance. There's a reason why there's always 1 or 2 mid-majors that have a deep run. It's because they have the experience. Those juniors and seniors, even to the sophomores, they have the experience of playing on that stage and the bright lights. So they're not fazed by it. And the reason these mid-majors are able to get these guys to stay is because these guys at the mid-majors are the guys that for some reason weren't able to get into a Power 5 conference school. And so they go to a mid-major. But the misconception is that if you go to a mid-major, you can't leave as a freshman because you're not going to get the notoriety. You're not going to get the exposure. So you got to play another 2 years to build your skill and to get your name out there. And I'm glad that we're seeing today that you don't have to do that. This is another topic, but I'm glad that we're seeing now people are able to go to mid-majors and do the one and done deal. But what you also see what I want to get back to, at these mid-majors, you get these guys that weren't able to make it to the Power 5 conference, the blue blood schools. And so they stay at these mid-majors for 3+ years to enhance their skills and accomplish whatever they need to accomplish while at school. And they're garnering that experience at the highest level, at that highest stage. And the culture at these mid-majors demand as much, if not more, than these players than at the blue bloods. Because the less talent you have on your roster, the stronger your culture has to be. When your culture is weak, you can rely on your talent more. But when your talent isn't as high, your culture has to compensate for that. Because culture leads to intangibles. And the more intangibles you have, you naturally just increase your chances of winning. So it's a correlation to it. It's a symbiotic connection. And what we're starting to see, like I said, are these one and dones go to mid-majors because they can see they can get the exposure without having to go to a big school or a blue Power 5 school. But also with the change of the rules with the NBA allowing guys to forego the NCAA and go to the G League for a year or go overseas for a year, we're seeing less one and dones. Now, is that good for college basketball? I think it is, especially when it comes to NCAA tournament. If those guys don't want to play in college, they shouldn't have to. Why are we wasting each other's time? Why is it wasting NCAA's time? Why is NCAA wasting their time? And what you're going to start seeing is guys that stay in college now because these are the cats that want to go to school, stay for 3+ years, and you're going to see even better basketball. Teams with more chemistry, teams with more experience, teams with more control, teams with more understanding of the game. That's going to lead to better basketball, better games, better NCAA tournament, better March Madness, more viewership. More viewership leads to more money for the NCAA. And this shift was caused by the success of mid-majors in the NCAA tournament. And you're starting to see how it all connects, how it all comes together. Better mid-majors leads to guys foregoing the Power 5 schools and going to mid-majors. The one and dones are foregoing college, which is leading to a lack of talent in the Power 5 conference schools. But what you're going to start getting is that guys that go to these Power 5 conference schools stay for 3+ years. And so it's going to be a shift. There's going to be another shift in the power balance of the NCAA. But I think we're seeing a shift right now where the mid-majors are starting to rise to prominence now. The blue bloods aren't the big bad boys on the street anymore. The mid-majors now are starting to take some ground. And it's good for college basketball. Is what you want to see. Because at the end of the day, you want to see good basketball. Regardless of where you stand on the topic, you want to see good basketball. And that's what we're getting. That is exactly what we're getting. And we're starting to see how everything's starting to come together, from the culture at mid majors, at Power 5 schools, how culture can affect the one and dones, the players in the program. How Roy Williams, how he used his platform, his coaching methods to establish great cultures and wherever he played at. And what are some of the tendencies of a great culture? Like I said, integrity, accountability, work ethic. Speaking of work ethic, everyone says they have great work ethic until you actually see what real work ethic is. You think you work hard until you see someone actually working hard. And I was the same way. I thought I was working hard until I saw someone who was actually working hard. In our last segment, I'm going to talk to you guys. I'm going to tell you guys a story from when I was in high school of when I learned what true work ethic was. So stick around. You're not going to miss it.
Are you looking to get your college football fix? Looking to get the latest news on your favorite school's team? The GSMC College Football Podcast is your ticket to all things college football. Join us as we talk college football from the national championship, the college rivalries, the bowl game, to the Heisman Trophy. To which conference is the best? We've got you covered for the Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, the Pac-12, ACC, and everything in between. Download the GSMC College Football Podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
All right, guys, welcome back. As we approach the final 20 minutes of this wonderful show that I've been blessed to be on, and if you guys have been listening for so far up until now, I appreciate you guys tuning in for so long. We have talked about Roy Williams and how his ability to establish culture impacted the success of his teams from Kansas to UNC, and the importance of culture and how exactly to establish a culture in the college program, and what are some of the benefits of that, and which teams do we see today that have strong cultures. We talked about the mid-majors, the blue bloods, the one and dones, how that dynamic has shifted. That landscape has shifted in the NCAA in the NCAA world. And is that shift going to be permanent? And now I want to talk to you guys today about something that's essential in culture, in mid-majors, in one and dones, and blue bloods, and in Roy Williams' career. What's the one constant that is essential in all of those categories, all of those topics? Work ethic. Work ethic can get you so far in life. You know, my uncle used to always tell me, if you just keep showing up every day, an opportunity is bound to come to you. But just off the sheer chance of showing up every day. And that's a quote that stuck with me. It resonated with me. But I want to tell you guys this story about when I first genuinely and truly realized what real work ethic was and how that impacted me, not only on the court, but off the court as well. So just for a little backstory, growing up, my father taught me everything I know about the game of basketball, with him being a former football player and former football player and basketball player, and him being a Hall of Fame coach for the Fairfax Stars, one of the winningest coaches in that AAU program in their history. He taught me everything I know about the game. And I'd be lying if I said it was hard. It was hard being his son. It was hard being his player because he coached me as well. It was hard having to wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning as a 10-year-old to go work out, to go play back, to train. It was hard feeling like you want to quit, feeling like you want to throw up, feeling like you want to give up, but not being allowed to because there's no other option. And I can remember so often, or it was one particular moment I stopped my basketball workout with my dad. I was like 11, and I started crying because it was hard. It was difficult. And I ran out the gym. And my father, being the stoic, calm man that he is, he slowly walked out the gym, saw me in the hallway. He walked over and he said, "If you think this is difficult, you're not going to be prepared for the real world. And as your father, I can't let that happen. Because this is a game. And the real world isn't. So we have to tackle this. We have to control this. Because it doesn't get any easier. You only get stronger. So clean yourself up and get back in the gym, and we're going to finish this workout." And that still resonates with me. And that's not the story I want to get, but that was just a little quick anecdote. So I thought I had a pretty solid idea of what work ethic was because of my dad, and also because of my mother and my stepfather, with them, all three of them being in the military. But when I lived in Japan in high school, my mother would make sure I woke up at 5:30 in the morning to go work out, to go get shots up before school. And my stepdad would make sure I had a pregame shoot around before my high school games. So I was always taught work ethic. I was always taught accountability. And I thought I knew what it was. And I thought I worked hard. Because when there's no one else around you working hard and you're the only one working hard, you're the only example you see of yourself. So you think, okay, I'm working hard. I'm fine. I'm good. But that mindset shifted for me when I was about a sophomore in high school, going to my sophomore year in high school. So, as you guys know, I played high school ball in Japan. And I got invited to this hoop group select camp. Hoop group is where some of the top high school players in the nation, they go to play for a week in July. Normally it's either the weekend of or the week after the live period has started. Live period is just when college coaches can interact with players, recruits. So it was the second week in July. First week in July, sorry. It was the first week in July. First weekend in July. As a sophomore, international player, I have this chip on my shoulder because I'm thinking to myself, these guys are going to know I'm an international player because it says it on my profile. And they're not going to, they think that I'm not going to be good. They think it's going to be sweet, and they think that I'm not going to be able to match up with them. So my mindset was, okay, I'm going to show them what I do. I'm going to show them what I can do and how great I am. And I performed well. I thought I did pretty decent that first day. We played about 3 games. I thought I performed well. And we finished the last game, and we're walking out the gym. There's like 300 kids at this camp. And there's like 5 or 6 gyms. But the gym I was in, where we played, I'm walking out the gym. My shoes are off. And I see this guy with his jersey still on, shoes still on, and he's shooting, and he's getting shots up, and he's warming up. And me being the young 14-year-old that I am, I said to him, "Hey man, you're not gonna go eat? I mean, we're done playing for today." And he said, "Eat? I still got work to do. I gotta get better. I gotta do what I gotta do because I'm here to get a scholarship. I'm not done. I'm not finished." And he said it just like that, with far more bombastic and far much more enthusiasm. But he said that, and he was a senior. He was going to his senior year. And I said to myself, man, this guy just played, 3 to 4 games, and he still wants to work. And this guy was good. He's one of the best players in that camp. And I thought to myself, wow, what am I doing? Why are my shoes off? Why am I not with them working out right now? And that was the first time another kid or another young adult, my age, similar, close to my age, had inspired me. And in that moment, I truly realized what real work ethic is. True work ethic is working not only when no one sees you, but also when you don't want to. When it's not, because so often we do things out of routine and we think it's hard work. Like I was waking up at 5:30 and it became a routine. So it wasn't really hard work for me. But for me to get a workout in after playing 3 to 4 games, that's real work ethic. And that's what that guy was doing. He had just played 3 to 4 games and he's getting in another workout, another shooting workout by himself, getting his own rebounds, tossing the ball to himself. And I told myself that as long as he's in here, I'm going to be in here too. The guy ended up being in there for 2 hours. Our games ended like at 8 o'clock. We didn't leave the gym till 10. And I didn't shoot with them, but I shot on one of the other baskets. And I told myself, for as long as that guy's in there, I'm going to be in here too because I want to be better. I want to be great. And that mindset stuck with me. And what I realized, or something I didn't know at that camp, was that if you're not playing, like if you're waiting in between your games, there are optional, what they call station workouts, where it's basically just an opportunity for you to get work in with one of the skills coaches there at the Hoop Group camp. And it's an opportunity for you to just get more work in between your games. And I told myself, I'm going to go to every single station workout, every single one, before a game, after game, doesn't matter. I'm going to every single one that I'm able to go to. And I'm going to shoot after, when the day's over. And so after that night, I shot for 2 hours. I went back to my room and I woke up for the first early bird morning workout, which is like at 6 a.m. And I did that every day. The camp was for about a week. For 5 days, I went to the early morning workout, 6 o'clock every day. And I played in every game. I went to every station workout in between during every game. So if we had a game that went from 9 to 10:30, if there was a station workout at 10:45, I'm going to that. If there's a station workout from 10:45 to 11:20, and we have a game at 11:30, I'm going to that station workout. And I went to every single workout that I could. Because I've realized that this is real work ethic. I don't want to do this, but I need to do this because this is what's necessary. This is what I have to do to get to where I want to get to. And I'm willing to do whatever it takes. What do I have to sacrifice? What do I have to do? Tell me so I can do it. And I was taught real work ethic because of that. That young man taught me true work ethic. I thought I was working hard. I was just in a routine. I was just doing it off of instinct. I wasn't really working hard anymore, waking up at 5:30 in the morning. That was simple for me. But now at that hoop group camp, I was doing something now that was actually physically and mentally and even emotionally challenging me. I was pushing myself to the limit. But my thought process was, if I can do this for 5 days, that's all it is. And I carry that mindset with me back into my high school season. There's no one that's going to be able to stop me. There's no one that's going to be able to guard me. And so I kept that work ethic. I kept that mindset. And not only did that change how I carried myself as a basketball player, but just as an individual. I started to gravitate towards other players that had the same work ethic as me. And I started gravitating myself towards people in the classroom that had that same work ethic. If I didn't know something, if I didn't know how to do something in class, I wanted to learn. I wanted to get out of that comfort zone. I wanted to make myself uncomfortable because now I realized in that week at hoop group, I'm only going to get better if I make myself uncomfortable, if I put myself in uncomfortable situations. And I had to embrace that. We all have to embrace that feeling of uncomfortability. We have to embrace it because that's the only way we're going to grow. And I thought I knew what work ethic was. I thought I knew what I was doing. But I was comfortable. I was comfortable with the work ethic I was doing. It's not real work ethic if you're comfortable. It's supposed to hurt. It's supposed to suck sometimes. And you should doubt yourself. You should doubt how hard it is. You should doubt yourself because of how hard it is. And I'd be lying if I said everything was easy. I'd be lying if I said I got the hang of it. It was difficult. It was hard. It challenged me. It drained me. But I loved every second of it because I was getting better. And I was separating myself from everybody. And that's what you notice with the great and talented individuals. Their work ethic is superb. It's bar none. They are separating themselves from the rest of the pack. And that guy separated himself. That guy ended up winning the MVP of that camp. And it obsessed me that I can't remember his name. But that guy won the MVP of the camp. And it's no mistake that he did. That guy was working hard. And just like I was at every early morning workout and every station workout, he was too. He was too. It's no mistake. People that have success doesn't come by chance or luck. Yes, they're blessed by the Most High, but their work ethic is why it did it. There's no luck. There's no happenstance. It doesn't just come to you. You earn it. You fight for it. And that's what I learned. I learned that's what real work ethic is. You have to want it. You have to get it. No one's going to hand it to you. It's not going to be given to you on a silver platter with a fork and spoon. No, you got to take it with no remorse, with no guilt. Just take it. It's yours. Go. Capitalize. Own it. And that's what I learned. That's when I really learned what true work ethic is. And I'm glad I did because that's what allowed me to play college basketball, to play professionally. And it's got me to where I am today. And I want to say that the work ethic is, there is a reward because at that camp, I ended up getting 2 rewards. I ended up getting the early bird morning workout star, which is basically just you get a T-shirt for if you attend every early bird morning workout, which I did. But I also got the Station Star Award, and the Station Star Award is given to, in layman's terms, the hardest work at the camp. It's given to the person that works the hardest and shows the most skill during those station workouts. And I was blessed by the Most High to get that award. I wasn't expecting to get that award, but I did, and it was such a blessing to know that after that 5 days, I was rewarded for my work ethic. And that's what made it easier for me to transition to transition that work ethic I had in the hoop group camp over to my high school season, because I knew that I would get rewarded for it eventually. It's going to hurt right now in the moment, but I will get rewarded for it eventually. And that made it easier to transition. Not only that, but I also ended up being ranked as one of the top 15 international players of that summer in hoop group. And for me to be ranked like that as a sophomore was unprecedented, especially as an international player. And it was like I said, it was a blessing. But it didn't just come to me. I had to earn it. I had to work for it. I was dying going back into our dorm rooms after every night of that hoop group camp because I was so tired. But I would tell myself, it's 5 days. All it is 5 days. Work hard. Work your ass off for 5 days. And then you can go home. Little did I know I would keep working like that for the next 11 or 9 years. But I'm glad I did, because God's who I am today. And I'm blessed. I'm grateful for that. Work ethic is necessary in all avenues of life, whether it be in sports, school, your career, your relationships, your family. If you want it to be great, you have to work at it. But not only do you have to work at it, you have to be patient. You have to be patient and trust. It's a cliche, but you have to trust the process. You have to trust the process. Just like Roy Williams, he trusted the process by sitting under Dean Smith. And that led to him having great success at Kansas and UNC with the great culture he established. Great culture leads to winning. Mid-majors have great cultures. And we're seeing them be successful now, matching up with the Blue Bloods. The work ethic is there. And all of it, everything comes back to work ethic. How hard are you working? What are you sacrificing? What are you willing to give? It all comes back to your work ethic. And that's the biggest takeaway that I want you guys to get from this show, from this episode. Work your butt off. Work your tail off. Because you only get this shot at life. So one time, you only get this shot at life one time. And the shot is so short. We have to take advantage of it. Embrace it. Work hard. Don't waste the time. Work hard. And whatever you do, love it. Embrace it. But work hard. Because you're going to regret every second that you don't. But guys, it's been a great show. Thank you so much for listening. Be sure to tune in and subscribe and follow us on all of our social media. Once again, you can find us on social media, any social media, by typing in GSMC Basketball Podcast. Once again, we are brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. And once again, guys, thank you so much for listening. Be sure to tune in to our next episode. So long and peace.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.